Well, summer weather is, I think, the theme here, and it's a straightforward forecast compared to the last couple of weeks here. So let me jump through this, and I'll start with where we've been over the last week. And not surprisingly, a warmer than normal week for virtually all the state. Mean temperatures here generally ranging from 2 to 4 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. A lot of that came at nighttime with elevated nighttime temperatures. So we picked up some degree day units, and that's going to be the case over the next week as well. And I'll show you the map of that here in just a moment. For precipitation, it really depended on where you were here for the last week with some of the, torrential rainfall totals here across south central portions of the state. You can see that here in red, especially around Lansing, East Lansing area, then southeastward into Livingston County with, again, some cases more than 5 and 6 inches that fell there. Record-breaking, record-setting rainfall. That contrasting with the northern areas of lower Michigan and western areas of the UP, where we picked up in some cases, less than a tenth of an inch. So very, very high variability with rainfall across the state. But most of the southern half of the lower peninsula here picked up at least a solid half to 3/4 of an inch here during the last week, and some people much more than that. Degree days I just mentioned here, we picked up fairly good totals here for the week. The graphic on the right-hand side here, these are seasonal totals beginning on May 1. And we right now we have a surplus over most of the state. But in the far northern part of the state, you can see in the central UP there with some of the blue color, just about normal. But most of the state, especially in the lower peninsula here, is ahead. And in some cases across the central and southern lower, we have a couple hundred units of surplus, which would put us in terms of calendar time, probably about a week ahead phenologically, at least in terms of the degree day totals here from where we typically are at this time of the year. And given the outlook, which of course have called for warmer than normal temperatures, it really, I think one of the take homes is it's certainly not looking for any problems with crops reaching maturity here before fall comes right now. So surpluses continue across, again, most of the state. Soil moisture, this is the graphic on the right-hand side here. This is plant extractable moisture in the top 3 feet of the profile, and fairly similar to where we've been. It ranges from a little below normal. The thumb in the lower peninsula is probably at least the long-term climatologically the driest place. But in state, I think we'd have to say now the western upper peninsula, which has been missed by a lot of the precipitation over the last several weeks. Those are the relative driest areas of the state, but it contrasts with many spots, especially northern lower Michigan, where we're ahead. The extractable moisture here is expressed in terms of percentiles looking at history. And so again, you can see that we're a little behind normal in those dry areas, or a little lower than normal in those brown areas, but ahead of normal or greater than normal in the green areas. The graphic on the left-hand side here from NASA, this satellite-based index, shows that really well, especially for western upper Michigan, where we're showing, and Bruno talked a little bit about this, areas where the demand exceeds what the plant actually has available from in the rooting zone, or at least the top 3 feet of the rooting zone. So, but given where we are this time of the year, where we have a rapid drawdown of our subsoil moisture reserves, most places are doing pretty well for moisture. Well, let's look at the forecast here real quick, and I think it's a straightforward or simple one. You can see high pressure, a big blue H right over the middle of northern lower Michigan here. That's the primary feature. Off to our east, one weather system of note, which got close, and that is the remnants of Tropical Storm Fred, which made landfall in the panhandle of Florida here a couple days ago. The moisture from Fred, as it moved north up through the Appalachians, it just barely grazed the southeastern corner of the state. Earlier forecasts, some of the models had actually had some of the moisture making it to Michigan, but it was really limited to that corner. Most of everybody else just had more humidity, as we all probably noticed if you're outside here over the last couple of days. We have had a noticeable increase in humidity. And behind that here, all of this green down below, this is Gulf of Mexico moisture, and it's in place over the region, but there just isn't a cohesive weather feature to lift the water vapor in the atmosphere and give us any widespread precipitation. So we're looking at here today, tomorrow, a continuation of what we saw yesterday. Very warm and humid, and maybe a couple of isolated showers or a thunder shower here this afternoon. Especially today, I think tomorrow is going to be mostly dry. Northern parts of the state, especially the UP, they're going to be dry for the next couple of days for both today and tomorrow. So not much in the way of precipitation to talk about. By tomorrow morning, more of the same, but less precipitation. The next weather system of note here, though, you can see out over the northern Great Plains, and by Saturday morning here, it begins to approach at least the far western side. So we will see scattered showers and thunderstorms develop or possible on Saturday, beginning in the far northwest part of the state, and then spreading to the rest of the state later during the day and into early Sunday. So that's really the next best chance for anything more organized. But I would say at this point, right now, the trends are for there to be less precipitation than more in many areas. Some areas will remain dry. So again, especially for those areas that missed rainfall last week, we are going to see dryness intensify. Temperatures will continue with at above normal levels, mid to upper 80s generally for highs. We'll see a couple spots push 90 here over the next day or two, and then low temperatures only typically in the low or mid 60s. So a few degrees, remaining a few degrees above normal. This frontal boundary here that you see will go through pass through the state by Sunday. We'll see a couple degrees cooler temperatures by early next week, but in general, more of the same. Especially moving into next week, I think we will continue at above normal or warmer than normal conditions here, at least through the middle of next week. But then there are some signs possibly of change. I'll mention that in just a second. For the rainfall totals for the week, depends on location, but generally another drier than normal week for much of the state, especially here as you can see a southwest to northeast type of pattern here. The greatest totals across the far west, but even then, only a quarter to maybe half an inch. And I think that might be a little aggressive too, but you can see some parts of the lower peninsula here, especially in the Thumb, the Saginaw Valley area, a little or no precipitation for the week. So again, another extended period of dry weather. Potential evapotranspiration rates here for the week, pretty close to the normals for late August. So generally running here, the daily average is about 1,500 to 1,700 of water per day. So again, given those areas that have been missed, and if you've got irrigation, it's going to probably be necessary here as we move into, again, a dry week and a relatively warm week as well. I mentioned a change in the medium range forecast guidance. Looking on the left-hand side here at the jet stream flow, what you can see, and this is a big change from a lot of most of the last several weeks here, but you can see a troughing feature expected to develop over the Great Lakes region and across the eastern U.S. And I'm sure most all of you know what that means. It's certainly going to allow cooler temperatures or cooler weather, probably some Canadian origin air into the region for a change. And so both the 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day outlooks, this is the 8 to 14 day version of that. You can see in the upper right-hand side here, favor of development of cooler than normal weather here by the last week of August. At the same time, with that northwesterly flow aloft like that, probably looking at drier than normal conditions as well. So again, at least in terms of temperature, that would be a significant change. We've been warmer than normal here for some time, but the medium range, and right now, the thought is that this would be temporary. This is not a long-term probably change, but it certainly would be a change for where we've been and probably for about a week or so towards the end of the month and maybe into early September. And with that, I will wrap up. Again, very summer-like here, expected for the next several days, really more of the same of where we've been. But again, I think the theme is warmer than normal and then limited moisture. A couple spots will pick up some rain today, but a little bit better chance on Saturday, but no widespread rain really is expected over the next week here. But you did see, as we look beyond, after a warmer than normal early part of next week, maybe by the end of next week or next weekend, we start to see some cooler air back into the region. And I'll wrap up with that and move to introduce our virtual breakfast speaker for next week. Whoops. Let me go back here. Don't want to go too fast here. That's Dr. Brooke Wilkie, who's the Associate Director for Science and Agronomy down at MSU's Kellogg Biological Station. And Brooke's going to be with us to talk about getting the most out of manure applications. So don't miss that. That again, that's 1 week from today, next Thursday. And with that, I will turn it back here to Bruce. Thanks.
Fantastic. Hey, another great speaker from KBS. We have a lot of good research going on at Kellogg Biological Station, and I think a lot of times we, even I'm guilty of it as anyone. We don't get enough folks up there to take a look at some of those things, so that's important. Jeff, there was a quick question there about outlooks and going into September. You have what's your crystal ball say about September?
Right now, I think I alluded to it. And actually, we have a new update on the long leads here in an hour from now at 8:30 from Climate Prediction Center. But I'm not expecting any changes. The changes or the outlooks right now consistently have called for warmer than normal mean temperatures for the remainder of the growing season and then into the fall. And I think that's what we will see. No real direction on precip at this point in time. We've been between areas forecast to be drier than normal to our west, drought issues, many of those locations, and then wetter than normal conditions to our southeast. And I think that's probably what we will see here in another hour. So that's the sort of, I think, the trajectory or the direction that our forecast will be headed for the next several weeks after the cooler than normal weather at the end of the month.
Just a little bit of a cool down for Labor Day, and we ought to be back on track.
Right.
That sounds perfect. Can't ask
right.
more than that.